Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar today. The webinar is sponsored and powered by Waymaker Digital. And in today's session, we will be discussing the UK government digital service. We will also be diving a bit deeper into project phases according to the GDS, which stands for the Government Digital Service. So welcome, and I hope you find the session today very useful. If you are new to this series or one of these webinars that we run, please go on YouTube and you can follow us on YouTube. Our channel is at Waymaker Digital. The same thing on Facebook. You can like our page or follow us, and you will get updates in real time when we have these events coming up. So go to YouTube and Facebook and please click to follow or subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for that. For those who don't know me, my name is Victor Sunday. I'm passionate about leadership excellence, digital innovation, and I pride myself in solving complex problems with simple, tested, and human-centric solutions. At Waymaker Digital, my responsibility covers product management, user experience design, user research, agile coaching, and end-to-end delivery of cloud services, digital transformation, and enterprise agile adoption, spanning across business change, technical leadership, and people orientation for our clients at Waymaker Digital. You can actually follow some of my work on my website, which I've recently just launched, and that is www.victorsunday.com. Thank you so much. In this session today, I will be talking about the government digital service, just to give in a bit of an introduction for those who do not know what the government digital service is in the UK, or for the benefit of those who are actually trying to maybe secure a contract with a public sector client or in government, or those who are trying to get a job in government, working within technology. You will hopefully find this conversation very useful. I also think that it's important to talk about the service standards, which is being managed and which was created and set up and being managed by the GDS. Before we then go to look at the agile project phases. Okay, we will also touch on a little bit some updates on our user research masterclass and the data analyst bootcamp program. Okay, so stick with me and let's go together today. A little bit about Waymaker Digital. We are a technology consulting practice with a focus on product research, delivery of projects, user experience design and research, digital marketing, and also we provide like recruitment services. We supply skilled specialists for private and public sector organizations. Our website is www.waymakerdigital.com. If you want to speak with us, call us on the number on the screen, or you can email us at hello@waymakerdigital.com, and somebody will definitely respond to you. If you want to get in touch to ask about or make an inquiry about any of our services, whether it's software development, service design, blueprinting, change management, whatever you want, just feel free, and we will definitely be happy to have a conversation with you. Some of the partnerships and the suppliers, supply framework that we belong to include the G Cloud, which is managed by the Cabinet Office. We also have some partnership and alliances for our training program and coaching program with Scrum Study and IT Pro TV. HubSpot is also a technical partner. Same thing with Microsoft and Amazon Web Services. So yeah, let's dive into today's session. An introduction to the government digital service for a start. So the GDS is a part of the Cabinet Office, and their focus is basically on transforming government digitally. So a lot of people in the UK, we frequently use a website called www.gov.uk. So that is an initiative of the government digital service that was set up by the Cabinet Office, and they were established. The GDS was established as a center of excellence in digital technology and data, and collaborating with other government departments by helping them with their own digital transformation. So GDS as a body or as a unit, they work with government departments to build platforms, standards, and services. Okay. The objective of the GDS is, among many other things, is to, one, they want to make public services simpler and better to use. So whether it's to pay taxes, whether it's to apply for a passport, whether it's to apply for a job, or whether it's to understand what is happening excuse me, at the local council, the most important thing is that they want to make services that are public facing, make government services that are public facing easier to understand, easier to use, simpler to understand, and better to use. They also build platforms and services. So, for example, they built Gov.uk Verify, which is a identity and verification service, which is being used by some other government departments and parastatals to identify and verify their users and their customers. Okay. Also, they want to ensure that government data is good and usable for everyone. So if government is publishing information or providing data, for whether it is for public use or whether it is for for organizations to use or for another government department to use, GDS are tasked with the responsibility to ensure that that data is fit for purpose. I mean, case in point, COVID-19 data has really been helpful to understand and to communicate with the public how the government efforts is being managed to address the pandemic, and also to manage expectations and to share information, in real time as they are happening. So such data is being looked after responsibly. I mean, is under the remit of the GDS to make sure that it serves the purpose for which it was intended. GDS also support other government departments to help them to make decisions to buy. So when they want to buy technology services or software or solutions, the government digital service are expert. They have experts in their team who can consult or support any government department in making those decisions, whether it's trying to choose a supplier, or whether it's a process of buying what technology is within budget, or trying to scope the work so that they can manage the work properly. So GDS supports, the provider support for government departments. And also finally, they provide tools, and technology tools, that is, to government departments and their employees to be able to work efficiently and more productively within their department. So GDS provides quite a lot of things, and it's not just about they're not just about producing websites. Okay, moving forward, There are some focus areas that I have identified that I think are the fundamental principles, so to speak, if you want to use that word, that underpin the work of the GDS. And the four of them for me are user needs, which is the first one. User needs is the number one. Second one is agile. The third one is the follow design principles. And the last one is is working in the open. I think these four principles are very fundamental to the remit of the government digital service. Like I said earlier, they are a center of excellence when it comes to digital technology, data, and collaborating with other government departments. But every time the GDS, every time they want to do any work, the starting point is always with user needs. Okay? The GDS will start with user needs. If you work in the GDS, you have to start with user needs. And also, they believe in the mindset or the thinking or the principles of agile. Yeah, the agile principles, the ethos of agile is very, very crucial in when you want to work within GDS. From my experience, even government departments who are not as agile also aspiring towards becoming agile as part of adopting the GDS principles. Also, they work to a set of design principles, like I said, and these are the things that guide them in everything, that is done within government departments. The final one is that the GDS always encourage government departments to work in the open, because making things open actually makes them better. Transparency and openness and working with your users and embracing, carrying them along in the change process is very, very crucial to the work that is being done. All right, this is a quote from the former Prime Minister of the UK, David Cameron, and he said that he believes that the creation of the government digital service is one of the greatest or great unsung triumphs of the last parliament. And I think I agree with that, because the GDS has not only helped so many government departments to come out of the conventional ways of working, but to also embrace the agile ways of working and deliver services that actually works for the public. Okay? Now, we're going to be talking about understanding the service standards. Yeah? The government digital service, actually, when they were set up, they have created the service standards, and the service standards are actually, they provide principles of building a good service. Yeah, they have a service manual that explains what product teams or service design teams can do to build great services that will meet the standards. Yeah, the service standard helps teams to create and run great public services. There used to be 18 of those standards. Now there are just 14 of them, 14 service standards. The standards help product design teams to model good practice, in my opinion. And like I said, if you're interested in knowing more or diving into a bit more detail, there is a service manual created or managed by the GDS on the Gov.uk website, where you can actually dive deeper into the detail behind each of these standards. These standards are like pillars or guides that help government departments in the process of designing or developing or building digital products for the public. There are links to all the service standards on this page, but I'm not going to go into that detail, but I will just run through the service standards quite quickly. And if anyone is interested, the slides will be made available, and you can follow the links in the slides to get a bit more information about each of the service standards. I believe understanding the service standards will give you an appreciation of what it is like when you're building a product or a service that is public facing, or when you're working in any government department in the UK. I've also included a URL there where you can actually go and actually get access to the service standards. So the first one is, like I said, they always start with user needs. So we always start with user needs. Understand users and their needs. Yeah, understand users and their needs. So whatever you're doing, you need to prove that in order to meet or satisfy this standard, you need to provide evidence that you have taken time to understand your users, who are the users of your product, and their needs. Yeah, what exactly are their pain points? What are their problems? You need to solve a whole problem for users. The third one is you need to provide a joined up experience across all channels. By that you mean whether it's the digital channel or a web-based channel or an offline channel, whether it's a channel where people fill a form on the website, or whether they come into the office to interact with somebody to get access to complete the information, or whether they want to make a phone call to complete the application, or whether they want to download something. Whatever channel, across all channels, you need to make sure that the experience is consistent for the users. The fourth one is make the service simple to use, and this is very, very important. The fifth one, make sure everyone can use the service. So make sure that your service that you're designing or you're building is inclusive. You have to consider the needs of every type of user who would potentially or who are using this service. Number 6 is to have a multidisciplinary team. By multidisciplinary, it means you should have a team that has different skill sets, ranging from research to analysis, to design, to development, to product management, to delivery management, and so on and so forth. This team is multidisciplined. Although they are multidisciplined, they will have to come together to achieve, for a single purpose, and bringing their skills to the table to help deliver that. The 7th one is to use agile ways of working. Now, agile ways of working here does not necessarily prescribe whether you go with any particular type of framework, but it's important that your team or your product team or your service design team, you are adopting the agile mindset, you're adopting the agile ways of thinking, you are adopting agile practice and principles that underpin delivering in a very iterative fashion. Number 8, iterate and improve frequently, meaning you build in smaller chunks and continue improving by testing with your users and improving the service in a frequent manner. Number 9, create a secure service which protects users' privacy. I don't need to say too much about this. Data privacy is a big thing. So you don't want to build a service that exposes the data of users. So you want to make sure the service is secure and it protects the privacy of users. Number 10, you need to define what success looks like and publish performance data. So as part of your design or as part of your development of a product or a service, you want to make sure that you understand what success looks like. So what are success criteria? How do we know if this service is successful? What are we looking at? And then how do we measure that? Can we measure success? Can we track it? And then you can publish the performance data in terms of this is how well the service is doing, or this is something we are aiming to achieve. So making that data available is very important. Number 11, choose the right tools and technology. So This is very straightforward, I suppose. Number 12, make new source code open. So whatever it is you're building, make sure that the source code is available and you are working in the open, as we discussed earlier. Number 13 is use and contribute to open standards, common components, and patterns. So if you've noticed that when you go to GovUK, there's a lot of consistency in the look and feel, whether you're reading GovUK that relates to Parliament or relates to government or that relates to Home Office or passport. The structure, the design is very, very consistent. Okay, so the idea behind that is that the components are reusable and they are common. The patterns are reusable and common, so that if I'm as a civilian or as a public user or consumer of public government digital services, if I want to pay my tax, the experience I get should be consistent, so that when I want to also do something else that is government related, for example, apply for my passport, I'm familiar with the structure and the look and feel of the government's website. The last one is to operate a reliable service. Okay, this also is very crucial because reliability and availability is important for users. So when you launch your service, you make sure that the public can rely on your service. So these are the 14 service standards. Again, like I said, I haven't really delved into any detail behind each of these standards, but every government department or parastatal have to follow these service standards as part of their product design or delivery of any public facing service. Okay, there's a service manual, like I said earlier. It's available on GovUK. The URL is there, and it has access or has links to many other things that you might find useful. The one we were talking about just now, I've just put it in the red box there, is the service assessment and applying the service standards. So you can Google this, or you can just get the URL, follow the URL when you get the slides, and you'll be able to access all this information in a lot more detail. Okay. Now let's talk about agile project phases, just at a very high level. So the phases of an agile project, according to the GDS, based on the GDS, which is the government digital standards, are discovery, alpha, beta, live, and retirement phases. Okay, so there are 5 of these phases. Potentially 6, because the beta phase has 2 sides to it. You could have the private beta phase or the public beta phase, which I would explain a bit more later on. All right, now the starting point is always the user needs. Okay, and the user needs is the fundamental or the foundation on which every other thing is built. So the first phase of a project is the discovery phase. In the discovery phase, the team, that's the product team or the design team, will be focusing on conducting user research and trying to understand the needs of users. Okay, and the premise of doing that is to be able to ask the question like, do we actually need to build something, or is there a real problem here that requires a solution, or is this just a case of an existing service just maybe changing the way it's been handled and problem is solved? So the discovery phase is where we've invest our efforts in understanding our users, and we also need to understand their needs. Okay, understand the problems, the pains that they might be facing, and why that is so. The next phase after that is the alpha phase. In the alpha phase, we will be focusing on developing and testing prototypes. And we will be testing our prototype with small user groups. The idea behind this is to look at how to identify solution ideas that could address some of the problems or all of the problems or the challenges or the needs that we have identified in the earlier phase, which is discovery. After we finish alpha, then we move into private beta, or so to speak, beta phase. In beta phase, we will now begin to turn the prototypes that we have tested and the ideas that we have validated, the hypotheses we have validated, into a smaller version of workable solution. Okay, we will be making a working test version available to a first limited set of users, which is why it is referred to as private beta. So you identify a smaller set of your user community or your user groups, and you make the service available to them. You make the solution available to them for them to use. And the idea behind that is that you continue as a team to test, or as a product team to test with this set of users and improve the service. When you are confident that the service can then be scaled or made available, to the wider public, then you go into what we call the private beta. This is where you make it available to everyone who needs to use the service. Okay, and the next phase after that is the live phase. During the live phase, it means the service is live, up and running, and we will be focusing our efforts now on ongoing evaluation, monitoring of the service, performance of the service. We'll be looking to continue to iterate and improve the solution based on the feedback that we get from our users. Okay, and the question we're going to be asking in this stage, or at this stage of the process, is what we built effective? Does it continue to address the needs that we have recognized or that we identified during our discovery? And we need to continue asking these questions because the needs of users is always evolving, and you have to keep an eye on making sure that the service or the solution is it continues to address that. Otherwise, how should it, or what can we do to make it better? Okay, there is a separate phase after this, which is called the retirement phase, not shown on this diagram. Now, the retirement phase literally talks about if you are building a new service that is replacing an existing or a legacy service, then you need to think about, in that phase, how do we retire the old service, or how do we bring down the legacy service? All right. Now, I'm going to be spending more time and delving deeper into each of these project phases shortly. But before I do that, I've got some updates to share about those who are interested in enhancing their career in digital technology with us at Waymaker Digital. The first one is our user research masterclass. A few updates about that. For those who do not know much about the user research masterclass, the user research masterclass is designed to help and support individuals who want to work in the field of user research, who want to expand their skills around service design, research, and user experience. So this course will teach you how to plan a research program, how to the importance of doing research and how to do it right. Okay. And also you will learn different techniques and practices relating to user research, usability testing, ethical practices, how to refine and ideate, how to prototype, how to analyze, and a lot more about user research. The big update about this is that this program used to start last year, 2020, as a 3 3-week program, like a 3-weekend program, but we are changing that now to a 3 months coaching and mentoring program. And I think that is a big difference. So you have access to 3 months coaching and mentoring, deep dive sessions and practice. You have lifetime access to the coaching videos. You have an online community of practice, course materials. We support you for your interview when you start applying for work, and mentor you for that. We provide CV review for you. If you want your CV to be branded, there is an internal service where you can do that, and also LinkedIn optimization. Now, there is another change which I've highlighted in yellow there. Our project work experience for 2021 is now an add-on service. So you need to request for that separately, and you have to subscribe to that via the all-in-one program. And it is a 3 months minimum verifiable work experience around product design and development. We have teams who are working on very great products, and not just working on products that are solving problems for users, but also using that opportunity to build their own exposure and their own experience, in a very massive way. If you sign up for that, you have access to our online platform that will teach you essential skills, soft skills for professionals, how to work remotely with teams, and many other things that is listed on the right side of the screen, which I will not want to go into the detail. All right, the next one is the Data Analyst Bootcamp for 2021. Now, for those who don't know as well, our Data Analyst Bootcamp is an intensive education program, coaching and mentoring, designed to equip you in terms of enhancing your skills around how to, manage data. We are focused on using Microsoft Power BI and Google Data Studio. We have intensive training, and after this you'll be ready to build dashboards, create customized reports using Google Data Studio and Microsoft Power BI. A quick update on that one as well. Price is still the same. However, instead of 3 weekends, is now a 3 months coaching and mentoring program with a focus still on Microsoft Power BI and Google Data Studio. Everything else remains the same. The same thing, the change as well, is the all-in-one program is also now a 3 months access to our training or career coaching program, where you work with our product design team. You build your portfolio, you have access to training and mentoring, one-to-one mentoring throughout the 3 months coaching and mentoring program to become a data analyst or a data scientist. All right? Okay. So let's go back and talk about the project phases. All right, like I mentioned earlier, during discovery, we are exploring the problem. In alpha, we are testing options with hypothesis. We are validating assumptions. And in beta, we are building, and refining options. And of course, in live, we continue to improve. Let's dive a bit deeper into the discovery phase, because I think it's important that we talk about, the detail. The discovery phase, it's a phase where you focus on understanding the problem that needs to be solved. The idea behind this is that before a product team or a service design team will commit or invest into building a service, it's important to first of all understand the problem that needs to be solved. So they have to take their time to do research, to learn about users and what their users are trying to achieve. They have to understand, first of all, as well, any constraints they might be facing in order to implement the service. For example, the constraint might be because of technology. Maybe there's a legacy system that's now become very, overweight and difficult to use for users, or maybe there's a new policy or new legislation, and that is why we are trying to introduce this this change. Before we commit to building anything, we need to first of all understand what exactly is the problem we are trying to solve. We need to understand who are our users. What challenges are we going to face? What policy intent are we trying to address? Bear in mind, this is most of the time within the public sector, civil service. So there's always most of the time a policy intention to be addressed when change or a new system or a new service is to be designed or developed. And of course, finally, during discovery, the team would focus, as a team, would focus on identifying opportunities to improve things, okay? Because the idea here is that whatever we learn during discovery should help us to work out whether we want to move forward into the alpha phase or not. Yeah, and during discovery, this is not the phase where we don't build anything in discovery. You shouldn't start building your service in the discovery phase. Because what we want to do in the discovery phase is to focus on understanding users, understanding the needs of users, and also their pain points. The timeline for a discovery phase typically lasts between 4 to 8 weeks, but really there's no set time period for discovery. It's important that you let the purpose of the discovery to determine how long the discovery takes. For example, if you're working on a problem that no one has researched before or nobody has worked on before, you might need a bit longer, team might need to spend a bit more time to understand the problem and be able to, identify whatever opportunities are there. If it's a problem that, people are familiar with, or a fair bit about it already, you might just be able to get away with a slightly shorter discovery even. Yeah. So it's important that as a team, you don't set a time based on what is typically done. You allow the purpose of the discovery to dictate how long. However, it's important to have a time frame just to guide your work and allows you some room for flexibility in case you need more time. In the discovery phase, I have also tried to bring out some of the skills that are important that a team should have that should be within a discovery team. During discovery, a team will need skills to research and understand the user need for their proposed idea or their proposed service. They will need skills to be aware of other services that currently exist, within that problem space, and also what are the plans of these other services that exist already. What's their roadmap like, and if we come up with anything, what would that mean for whatever idea or whatever new service or product that we come up with. Also, within the discovery team, it's important to have a skill that helps to plan out what an initial prototype would explore, what problems or what assumptions or what hypotheses could be. Can we prove within this problem space? So these are the type of skill sets I believe are really, really important to have within the discovery phase, and this is also validated with the GDS, service manual. The link is below if you want to check it out. They have a lot more detail in there. Some of the job functions and roles within the discovery phase, you need at least a product manager or a product owner. You need a user researcher, and potentially a user experience designer. You may also find it helpful to have like a developer or a content designer in your team. But again, the basic needs or the basic job roles that you most likely will need in discovery are the product manager, the user researcher, and the user experience designer. Some artifacts or some outcomes excuse me, from discovery that I've put together based on my personal experience. I have experience. I've led many discoveries within the for public sector clients. We have worked with Ministry of Justice, to Parliament, to the HMRC, Department for Education, Customs, and many government departments. And I've put together some important outcomes or artifacts, so to speak, from a discovery that should give you an idea that, okay, you are in a good shape, or you are heading in the right direction. Number one is the problem definition and scope. Yeah, you should have that documented. You should have a list of user needs that based on research that you've identified and their context. You should have a findings, like a report on your findings from research. Potentially have a service map. It doesn't have to be anything, grandiose, and it could be just a low fidelity, maybe a journey map or a service map, a stakeholder analysis document to say, okay, within the space, these are the players, these are the stakeholders, this is what their roadmap looks like, and these are the dependencies, so these are the relationships that are very, very important in order to be able to, come up with a new service or solution within this space. Also, maybe user journey maps. Potentially, you have a service that could be within, a bigger or a wider service. So, how does this, service that we're working on, or this discovery that we're working on, how does it fit into the wider journey for the user? And what does that look like? Also, accessibility needs. This is very, very important, because you have to you have to think inclusively. You need to build a service that works for everybody. Also, you could make a list of your identified constraints during research. So any constraint that you've identified during research, is important to capture them as well. And also, you can have a list of proposed improvements and ideas that you've brainstormed or you've come up with based on your research, based on your analysis, and or your findings. These are the improvements that or ideas that you believe would be very, very useful or valuable to test with users, maybe in an alpha. Okay, and then you potentially might want to put together recommendations for alpha phase or not. If you think there is no need to proceed to alpha, you don't have to. You could, but if you want to proceed to alpha, you could also put a recommendation together for what you might want to do in the alpha phase. Some checkpoints to know if your discovery has finished. Your discovery has finished when you've decided whether or not you want to move onto alpha. If the decision to move to alpha, then you want to ensure that you understand the wider context and other services and teams and organizations working on similar problems to you. You need to be very clear on how what you are working on fits into that wider problem space I mentioned earlier, and maybe have a list of ideas that you want to test at alpha, or an idea of which one you'd like to test first. We talked about that already. Have a rough idea, the kind of skills and roles you might need in your team for alpha. And also, you need to understand what success means for you. What are your success criteria for alpha? Okay, that's how you know that, okay, now we have finished discovery. At the end of discovery, what you want to do is potentially move on to the alpha phase. And again, moving on to the alpha phase means that, yes, you have identified that there's a viable service that, as a team you could build that will make it easier for users to do the thing or the things they need to do. And you've also identified as a cost-effective solution and it's cost effective to pursue the problem. Meaning, if you weigh it up, how much it will cost against how much of an improvement you think you can make, then you think it's cost effective. Meaning the cost of making the improvement is much less versus the cost of not doing it. So yeah, it's cost effective. And again, just as a note, it's not a failure to stop at the end of the discovery phase. If you as a team work in research and your research shows that the best thing to do is not to move into alpha and just stop at the end of discovery, that does not mean failure. It is okay. That is very, very okay, because that is the purpose of the discovery anyway. Okay? Let's talk about alpha, a little bit about alpha as well, alpha phase. The alpha phase is the phase where we begin to test options with hypothesis. Yeah? The objective of the alpha phase is to try out different solutions to the problems and the user needs that we have identified in the previous phase, which is the discovery phase. So as a team, we will be focusing on building prototypes, and we'll be focusing on testing different ideas. And in this phase, the important thing to note is that the team should not be afraid. The product team or the service team should not be afraid to challenge the way things are done in the current way, because the alpha phase is a chance to explore new ideas, to explore new approaches, and to test the riskiest assumptions. So the idea is to create, you can even create smaller prototypes. You don't have to build you don't have to create prototype for the entire wider journey. You could just focus on one part of the problem, maybe just the most difficult or the most riskiest part, and you just want to attack that, address that first. The idea behind that is that it will let the team to do the minimum that is needed to be done in order to test the riskiest assumptions. Typically, alpha takes about 6 to 8 weeks. So you want to, as a team, this is where you now start talking about, okay, how do we book our alpha assessment with the GDS team? So you want to book ahead. You want to make sure that you have the right people in your team. You want to make sure that you are considering the service standards as well, because for alpha, there are standards that needs to be met. In alpha phase, as a team, you need skills to be able to explore ideas, skills to be able to build prototypes, solve hard problems, validate assumptions and take them out, prove your hypothesis. Like I said, is a phase where you can't afford to, be afraid to try or challenge the way things are done or try new things, because the alpha phase is where you can come up with any idea as much as possible, play around with ideas, test ideas with your users, research and validate any assumption that you might have. It's very, very important that as in this phase, as a team, you want to begin to think about the kind of priorities you have, because in this phase, a crucial part of alpha, like I said, is you want to begin to identify and test your riskiest assumption. At the same time, you want to meet the service standard requirement for alpha. So, for example, the accessibility testing, you want to make sure that your prototype, you could actually make sure that your prototype is accessible, and test accessibility as part of your alpha phase. You want to be able to also understand your user journey scope. How can we go? Alpha is the farthest we can go. In this phase, you want to be able to, put the stakes to the ground and know where the process starts and where the process ends. And then how does the service that we're designing or this prototype, how does this, if we build this then, how would it fit into the user's wider journey? For example, somebody who is trying to maybe pay their VAT, companies trying to pay VAT using Making Tax Digital. Making Tax Digital and paying VAT, they are two services connected together. Paying the VAT is part of Making Tax Digital. There are so many other different type of taxes that form, that are under the umbrella of Making Tax Digital. But if as a team, we are focused on paying VAT, and we design the process of the journey for paying your VAT for companies or for users. How does that fit into the wider context, which is Making Tax Digital? Yeah. How do we make sure that whatever it is we design, we use the same component, we have to be conscious of the same patterns, we have to think about the wider journey, that there's consistency of the experience that users have. Also, we want to make sure that we're solving a whole problem for our users. Okay, you should, in this phase, you want to have a sense of what would happen to make the journey as a whole work together as much as possible. Okay, so you're not just focused on that smaller component, or that you're only that smaller thing that you're working on, but because it's a part of a much bigger thing, you have to think bigger and also be able to narrow down to your product. All right. In terms of the types of job functions that I believe are relevant in the alpha phase, you potentially will need a product manager, delivery manager, or scrum master, user researcher, or more than one potentially, content designers to write content and make sure that the content work for users, user experience designers, or interface designer, or interaction designers, whatever the name is called. There's so many varieties of designers these days, which is quite interesting. Also, you potentially would have a developer to help with, if you're building a prototype. You probably might have a tech lead who would have a view of the wider technology landscape and the technical constraints that you might have, who could help you with that. And you might also want to work with an accessibility lead who would make sure that your service is inclusive and it works for every type of user. Okay, these are very, very important things. Potentially, you might also want to have access to, like, maybe a performance analyst to help you make sure that there is enough data to validate your assumptions and to prove your hypothesis. Okay, so this is where I'm going to pause today, and I would hopefully be able to continue and share more on the alpha phase, and then we can talk about the beta phase as well in the next series. Before I go, there are people who have indicated interest in working with us, and I believe there are people who also might want to continue to work with us, because at Waymaker Digital, we are continuing to hire for roles within the public sector. Like I mentioned earlier, we are a supplier with the Cabinet Office, so we are constantly looking for product managers. If you're a business analyst, or a cybersecurity consultant, technical architect, user researcher, data analyst, scrum master, or UX designer, or any type of role, maybe etc., whatever I've not listed there, please feel free to email us at hello@waymakerdigital.com, and we will give you all the information and the opportunities and the vacancies that might be available. And we'll also let you know the process to join our consulting team. All right. I hope you found today's session useful. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you on the next webinar. Have a nice day. Bye.